Hey everyone, Sam here. I'm out on top of Mount Tamalpais. Not sure how well you can hear me. There's a lot of wind right now, but I'm going to take some long exposure photos. It's really windy, so the fog's moving quite a bit right now. And hoping to get some cool, long exposure movement shots of the fog. And we'll see how late I can stay here before Rangers say we gotta go. But hopefully I'll be able to get some nighttime photos as well. So see what we can come up with, and then check them out back on the computer. Hey everyone, so it is now nighttime. It's dark outside, cars, pretty much everyone's left at this point, but there's still some people here, so I didn't feel, I wasn't sure if the ranger was going to show up or what, but they let us stay pretty late. Got some really cool photos, I think. There's some stars out there, there's a really small crescent moon, and just tons of wind with this fog marine layer moving underneath us. And I tried shooting at a few different angles, tried shooting with the 65mm and my 15mm, so got some different wide angle and more telephoto shots. And then I started off over on this trail looking at the ocean more so, and then I came up onto this point over here that looked towards the city, but there's so much fog you can't actually see that much. I did get some of the lights from a nearby city, not sure which one that is, but kind of cool, different looks, and even got some light streaks with these cars passing in front of us. So yeah, all in all, really fun photo adventure, just trying some different things. I've always wanted to shoot this, so looks like it's time to go.
Alright, so first up we have this. This was the first image I took, and as you can see, it's overexposed. I typically I'll watch my light meter, but I typically don't go for straight in the middle 0 because highlights or shadows will change, and this was right around 0, and you can see that while the trees are nicely exposed, the sky's completely overexposed. And you can also see that unfortunately I had gone on a trip right before this down to Mexico, and my sensor is very dirty, and I should have check that beforehand, but I didn't want to be cleaning my sensor up there on the mountain with all this wind going on. And so I kind of knew that when I got into Lightroom, I was going to have to go and take out all those little dust spots. So you can see in this image how there are dust spots, and then we go to this image and the dust spots are gone, or at least for the most part. I'm sure if you were to blow this up really big, you might see some of the tweaks I made, but you can also see here I underexposed a little bit, so it brought in more of the colors from the sky. Still have details down there in the trees and whatnot, and a lot of times when I'm taking photos like this, I'll just try and I'll find something that's nice and even, but also try going a bit darker, a bit lighter, just to see what that does, because especially with the longer exposure, the slower shutter, what your camera's showing you might not be what the end result really looks like. So I went on and underexposed even more. You can see I lost a lot of details in the trees, but the colors from the sky were so much nicer. Very little is blown, or if anything's blown out there, it's not very much. And you still have the details of that path going down in the tall grass. What's also really nice about this image, or these last three, is that they're 15mm. They're really wide, you're seeing a whole lot. But the reason I came up here was to shoot the movement of the fog, and I felt like at this distance I wasn't really seeing that. So I switched over to my 65 and off to the west of where I was, and again I'm just propped up on a rock, so I had to kind of just on this rock, that's where I was taking all these photos from. I would adjust my tilt, but pretty much the location was all the same for these initial photos at least. So the sun's already set, or at least it's hiding behind this mountain, so I can't really see it. But you have these great colors, and you have this whole marine layer, all this fog moving below us, and all these people were watching it. And this is a long exposure, and these people were standing so still because they're watching the sunset. And I was actually able to capture them without getting too much, ghost, movement or blur or anything like that, which I thought it came out really nice. This was a mistake actually, but I kind of liked the look. I noticed that I was on the Gorilla Pod and it was starting to move, and so I stopped the shutter early, and it just gave this really cool sort of ethereal look to it, which happy mistake. Here you can see it's starting to get a bit darker. I really like that there's a slight definition there still on the mountainside, but then you have all the colors in the background. And then I went for full silhouette and really pulled out those colors in the highlights, which I thought looked really nice, being a bit darker there. From there, I kind of felt like I'd taken enough photos over there, and I looked back, and this couple had walked past me on the path, and they went down and sat down below me. So I thought it was nice sort of, I'm not sure if you saw that right away or if it's kind of a hidden thing that they're sitting there in the bottom left. And then I just framed it so I didn't have the clouds completely filling the top of frame. I still wanted to have that horizon line. And so I put that right at the top there. And one thing I kind of noticed sitting there, but come doing the long exposure, I really noticed the light still hitting the mountains there down below, which I thought was a really nice little look to this image. And then I just went and repositioned here. Again, a little dark in the trees. I would have liked it to be a bit lighter, but just a lot of contrast here from the highlights of the clouds, which are white, to these trees that are basically in the shade now, and completely dark down there. Again, just reframing, try to center them. They're on this sort of island of this peninsula, or this end of the mountain, and trees around them. So I thought it'd be nice to do something a bit more symmetrical there. Then the colors were getting really brilliant, so I went back and shot the mountain again. I tried to balance this as much as I could, and I did have to tweak this a little bit, do a little cropping in the computer, but really filling half the frame with the mountain, half the frame with the sky. And again, this is all practice. This is all just trying different things to see what would look best. All these have been edited slightly, and that's why you have some different colors in there. I just tried different things, and that's really what these photo adventures are all about, is trying different things and hoping you get at least one image you really enjoy. So again, those 4 people are still down there. I really love the colors of later in the day when the sun's it's fully set now, and you just have these great soft sort of pastel-y colors. Trying different frames, getting more of the sky in there, less of the mountain. Off to the left, I saw all these cars leaving, so I turned looking south now, and I thought maybe I'll get some, I'll get the like streets of the cars, and maybe I'll get something else. Really didn't like any of these photos all that much. I had a few more, but I didn't put them in here because I didn't think they were that dynamic, I guess, at the end of the day. Upon leaving, I was walking out and I looked back, and I was kind of going downhill. This was just a slight incline, so I walked back and thought it'd be cool to be surrounded by the grass looking out, but I think it's just a little too late in the day for it. I think earlier when there's more light hitting the grass, it could have looked really nice, but that's actually at the end of the path there. That's the rock I was propped up on to take these photos. From the place I was at, I walked back to the parking lot and then up and around to this other spot that was pretty much the same view of where I was looking, just higher up. And so I was able to see more of the mountainside, get these trees in there as well, which I thought looked really nice. And I could also then, from this vantage point, see more to the east and more where the city and some of the other cities up north here were. And so I did long exposures there, which I thought looked really nice. Having the clouds moving with that sort of underglow is a really dynamic look. This is where I wish I had a longer lens. I think with a 200 millimeter really zoomed in out over there would have looked really nice. Personally, if I liked this image more, I'd probably get rid of the airplane streak. It's not my favorite thing, is when there's just these little streaks from the airplanes. But you did get the streaks down in the right corner there of the cars, which I thought looked really cool. Then, because it was getting darker, I thought maybe there'll be some stars, so I switched back to my 15 millimeter and snapped this one. You can see that I wasn't perfectly framed, and so I'd probably go and straighten this out a little bit more, but I just wanted to show this one really quick, getting the car streaks in there. There's a lot of little details. And then this one, I centered it up correctly, and I did a little bit more post work on this image. But again, I was in National Park. The rangers were, starting to kick people out. They really let us stay there really late, but it was dark at this point. And so I took this shot. I wish I could have stayed until it was fully dark out, because the moon actually had already set. And, I knew that night would have been a good night to get some starry night photos, but just couldn't stay out there long enough to get a fully dark sky. I did manage to sneak this one off, just looking off again to the west from that same location. And you can see that even though the sun has set, probably an hour earlier at this point, there's still tons of light over there in the west. And while the stars came out and you got the nice movement of the clouds, it was just too bright in that corner still to really get a nice looking image. So that was unfortunate, but these are just some of the photos that I took. Really hope this was useful for you. I, really just when taking long exposures, it's all about patience. Each photo you take is going to take at least, 5 to 30 seconds, if not longer, to get that movement, to get those different things. And it doesn't always have to be of stars. It can be of water, it can be of clouds, it can be of car lights, all these things, but trying to get as much as you can in one frame. I went out there post sunset to get those colors from the sky. I knew that there'd be fog down below because in San Francisco it's crazy foggy, and once you get to a certain altitude you can get above that, so that's why I went to Mount Tam. And then just hanging out there as late as I could to try and get some different angles, try and get some stars maybe, and just experiment, try different things. So hope this was useful for y'all. I can't wait to do another one of these. I learned a lot just from doing this. I haven't done a vlog before, so excited to try this again and keep sharing some of these techniques and methods that I do when I take my photos.